The scene is set in one of the local taxi cabs that we're often seen around New Sarum. Jason Cadwell will be sit in the back seat. He is dressed in his another casual attire. This time it is black jacket, black slacks with a gray undershirt. Nothing fancy, just something that would an upperclassman would wear during a night out of the town. And he's idly playing with a rusty coin, and between his fingers, he's just looking at it, flipping it around his fingers, just toying with it as he arrives to his destination, the One-Eyed Dog bookstore. Once he's there, he tips the cabbie generously, hops out, adjusts his jacket a little bit, and looks around a brief moment before he strolls up to the door, and assuming it's open, he would enter and look for the nearest secretary, and he would give that person a gentle nod and say, "I'm here to speak with Jacob. Do you know where he's at?"
You'll be greeted by a woman this time. Raven-haired, petite. She doesn't look like she's any more than 5 feet and a bit on the plump side. She wears spectacles that, from the book at her side, more than likely are used in the repeated reading. The 30-ish-year-old woman nods to you, smiles, and with a ladylike flourish, she will politely direct you towards the office. And she'll, of course, tell you, knock first.
He flashes a half-cocked grin, and he just mentions a brief thank you. Before he ventures over to where she instructed him to go, he would reach the office and give it a light tap on the door frame.
Jacob will say, "Come in."
Jason would enter without further ado. He greets the man with a reassured, friendly smile, and he would go ahead and ask, "Excuse me, Jacob, do you have a moment?"
Certainly. Go ahead and have a seat. Jason, was it? I believe I ran across you and your compatriot before.
Indeed, that was James Smith. He is a dear associate of mine. Jason goes ahead and helps himself to a seat, running his hands along the armrests. So about that book I selected out before, do you believe you still have it?
Yes.
Good.
No one else has picked it up.
Good. I was curious on the price tag on it, and Jason will take this opportunity to give an in-depth inspection of Jacob to determine if there was anything off about him, and I will.
And it's perception awareness.
Right, perception. 7. So that's 2 successes. What would
That's
he
enough.
find?
You can look at him and you can tell that he is kindred and he is using a bit of his blood to look the part of a normal human.
Jason will kind of grin a little. He's just kind of giving him a brief look, remaining silent for a few seconds, and casually drops, "I'm sure you can, there's a discount for fellow kindred in the city, is there not?"
Jacob will raise an eyebrow before giving the man across from him a close, careful look, activating heightened senses. Just, is your character using Blush of Life?
He is using nothing, so he's easily detectable. He is not breathing. He is rather pale.
So just a 6, which -4 for the auspics. He can tell just by glancing at you up and down that you are not a living person. He notices your lack of breathing, that slight pallor of paleness to your skin. Smiles a bit. Well, now and then I do have less monetary dealings with my fellows. It depends on, and he picks up the book. He'd been keeping it on his desk. Looks it over. The age of the materials and the subject matter.
Jason Cadwell brings his hands up. He rests them onto his chin and just kind of looks at the book, between the book and Jacob. And then he casually rolls his shoulders into a shrug. Well, you see, now we can properly introduce ourselves. I am Jason Cadwell of the Clan Tremere. And as you know, we have a rather firm grasp onto the local hospital. So I have connections there if you should desire a few choices of whatever drink you would desire. And he leaves that vague, uncertain of how secure the office was. Likewise, I do also possess a few personal skills that, well, let's just say I'd be very talented at solving any sort of secrets or mysteries that you would possess, or simply investigating.
Jacob smiles. He looks the man over a moment. His face has gone stone. He is keeping up a classic poker face. Takes a moment before he decides to fill the silence. Well, if what you are offering is future services for the book, then I'd say this one is worth no more than a minor, small trade of expenses.
Jason offers a faint nod in approval. Of course, it's nothing major. I'm not going to betray the Camarilla, betray my clan for you, but I can definitely assist you as long as such a task is within the laws and the approval of my sect. I assume you are
Naturally.
of the Camarilla.
A wonderful thing to ask after you've mentioned you won't break the Camarilla or the Masquerade for me.
Well, if you aren't, I suppose I won't be too harsh on you. It's understandable. And Jason he clearly has a stone face on him, so you can detect to see if he's lying or not, should you desire.
Sure.
And he is
Sure.
a
Why
terrible
not?
liar, so I would say difficulty like 6. Yeah, Jason is like completely and utterly lying through his teeth. He's like at this point it's more of like a underveiled threat that he just tossed towards Jacob. It wasn't even that subtle.
Jacob is just going to smile. He's going to take the book, push it casually across the desk. The desk is nice, well lacquered, and very much taken care of, solid wood. So the book's being paper and not leather bound slides across it without too much difficulty. Although you hear that tiny little squeaking sound as the friction finally catches up to it. He will roll his eyes at the gentleman. I'll have you know that, well, you want to be very careful how you speak to me within my own haven.
Jason kind of He tries to maintain his stone face, but he clearly wasn't very good at this sort of subterfuge. So he just kind of bows his head in more of a apologetic manner, and he more or less submits to the other person's authority in the domain. I apologize. There's been some events lately that have put me on edge. I suppose I am a little more hostile than I should be. Again, I apologize.
It is accepted, and I'll accept the boon for the book in the interests of communication. My name is Jacob Crowley. I am the primogen of the Toreador.
And with that, Jason just kind of like, you can see the cringe on his face that he had possibly upset such a high-standing member in society. And considering that he's just a mere, barely above a fledgling, you can see the inner guilt that he possesses. And he respectfully puts his hand onto the book, wrapping his fingers along it, briefly inspecting the quality again before bowing his head to Crawley. Of course, you have a minor favor with me as long as you do not ask too much of that would require betrayal of the clan.
Of course.
Then he simply takes the book and well, I guess he would just leave it on the desk for now because he's not going anywhere. He just folds his fingers together and sort of runs them over. You can probably even see by now there's a trickle of sweat along his temple, and it was most undoubtedly a darker color than what normal sweat would be. So, oh, I'm sorry. You may go ahead and speak.
All I meant to ask was there anything else that you might be interested in? Seeing as how we're both of the same nature, I don't feel it detrimental to inform you. I do have a wider variety at my disposal, not in the traditional sense, but if there's something interesting you're looking to find, I can try to dig my fingers in and search around for it.
Jason he looks up into the ceiling and thinking to himself for a moment before he tries to put on his best innocent expression, I would say, and he holds his hands out. Well, in the light of recent matters, I am finding myself, I suppose, morbidly interested into anything that you might have concerning these sort of flesh rituals or anything to deal with the Sabbat. And as I fear that I may need to know more about this common foe than I would like to. And he would appear genuine in his, or I suppose I can roll for that, roll to see if he can be persuasive enough that he's not malicious in this intent.
Totally. That's manipulation and empathy.
I have none. No expression. I have charisma and expression. I have one manipulation. He's not. Well, he's not. He's
no
not.
Empathy at all.
He has expression.
Well, you can say if you're trying to flourish up the point, then we can let it slide with expression.
Well, he's not lying. He's just trying to appear like trying not to get lynched for trying to study the Sabbat. Like trying to find out more about him. That's what I'm more getting at.
Sure.
So, well, you want manipulation expression?
Yeah, let's see it.
Okay, that'll be 4. And difficulty 7, 6.
Oh, just 6.
And we have 1 success.
That's good enough for me. Let's see.
So Jason doesn't appear like he's about to go studying flesh crafting and all that forbidden stuff. He seems genuine in his concern about the issue.
Jacob is not really concerned, only because you have identified yourself as a Tremere, and he has the feeling that if a Tremere started digging around in Sabbat flesh crafting, he'd be flayed before the night was over. So he will actually just put his hands up like so and half shrug before he speaks again. I don't really have too much in the way of books on those, but well, the last time I spoke with someone on this matter, I was able to find a somewhat general description of a variety of abilities. I'm fairly certain some of those I saw mentioned were not classic Camarilla. If that's the sort of thing you're looking for, I can try to find out if there was another copy written anywhere.
Jason eagerly nods his head. Even vague sources, like, I don't know, I've never seen some of these things, and even horror stories from the old days that may provide some source of material onto what these Sabbat may do, because I feel inadequately equipped to recognize their sort of handiwork, and I would love to expand my knowledge upon such.
I understand completely, and I can certainly do what I can to provide you with that. Again, this is something where I have to reach out and contact a few people. So I'll use the pats his chest, contact information you provided me with earlier, and I will call you if and when I manage to have any luck with it. Or if after a week I've absolutely nothing, I'll let you know that as well.
Fair enough. And I suppose this will be needless to say that I will be greatly appreciated if you could do this for me, and perhaps I will owe you a bit of a greater favor if you would be able to acquire this material for me. With discretion, of course.
Discretion is never too great of an issue for me.
Excellent. He wraps his fingers onto the book and then picks it up, kind of looking it over before he looks back to Jacob. I believe that covers all my interests for in regards to business. I suppose I would ask you, and this might be a no-brainer, but I suppose you are attending to the asylum that's occurring this evening?
Ah, the Elysium. Yes,
Elysium.
indeed, I certainly plan to.
Well, then I suppose I'll see you there. He holds up the book with a kind of a grin. I hope to give the prince this, and he would hopefully appreciate this being a Bruja.
Ah, so that's why you wanted an older book on war and tactics.
Indeed, I figured you had plenty of copies of The Art of War. Tried to find something a little bit more unique.
I think he will appreciate the effort, even if he has a copy of the book himself.
Good, that's at least my hope. I realize that my client is not the most favored in these times, but I do my best to try to present myself as trustworthy and at least not going to do anything harmful to our society.
So far, those new members which we've met coming into the city, they've done rather well in maintaining a proper amount of decorum and model behavior. I haven't found cause to complain about any of the Tremere I know as of late.
Well, good. I hope that remains so. I would hate for any sort of divide to occur. And I have not had much contact with the Toreador, but no problems means something is going good, I suppose.
I assure you, you'll run into us a bit more in the following weeks. Once our businesses are back up and running in the proper nightly fashions. We've been keeping something of a low profile while we deal with these incursions, just to not make ourselves too easy of a target.
Of course, only good practice sense to avoid the limelight while there's trouble with it. But it was a pleasure to meet you truly now, Mr. Crawley. I suppose I need to go prepare for the meeting tonight, and I look forward to seeing you there.
Indeed. Take care, Jason.
He picks up the book, tucking it under his arm. He stands up, gives a more politeful bow, recognizing Crowley's authority within the society, and then he turns and sees himself out of the office and would venture outside of the structure should there be no interruptions.
There's no interruption at all, just a lady who he passes by, gives him one of those friendly waves. She's buried in her book and not even paying him half a mind. She just remembers and hears him go by. Nobody stops him. The bookstore is open for people coming and going. He might bump into an eager couple flushing their way through the door, but that's about it. Jacob, for his part, will remain in the room after the door is closed, lean back, and start to wonder if any of the difficulties he's been having as of late could be solved with a gentle touch from a blood mage.
Jacob will no doubt begin to search for hunting a cab, as he very much disliked walking alone in the middle of the night, despite his all of his traits and abilities. And so the scene will end with him hailing down a fresh cab and entering it.